Hi, welcome back to my channel. I have my coffee and it says flawless proof, change is beautiful. October is officially wrapped up. We read so many books. To wrap it up, I'm just going to tell you everything that I read, what I thought about it, if I'd recommend it. October was a pretty good reading month. We went through a lot of pages. I'm going to start off with I made it through the entire ACOTAR series by Sarah J. Maas. A Court of Thorns and Roses, A Court of Mist and Fury, A Court of Wings and Ruin, A Court of Frost and Starlight, and A Court of Silver Flame. I had it sitting on my shelf and I just kept putting it off and off and off, and I thought, I can't keep doing this. It's gonna get spoiled for me. I just need to read it. I started off with A Court of Thorns and Roses, and sorry, I have my little write-up here. So I'm going to glance at this while talking about it. A Court of Thorns and Roses, I gave it 5 stars and I loved it. I think that it was an absolute amazing first book to a series. It definitely captivated you. It held your attention. You did not stray away. Tamlin in this book, he is something else. So Sarah J. Maas does an amazing job at really building the characters, building the world, and so quickly too. I feel like with fantasy novels, a lot of the time it's hard to get into them because you're trying to learn a whole new world. It's a little bit harder because it's not what we're used to. But she made this so easy to get into, especially like the map, and it is so easy to follow. You aren't lost. I loved A Court of Thorns and Roses. In my book journal, I wrote down that it is the best character building I've witnessed in a book. It was an easy 5-star read, and one of my favorite parts was the elements of the riddle. If you've heard of this book, you may have heard that there is a riddle in it. I did not know anything about this series other than it was amazing. When I got to the riddle, I was like, oh my gosh. I did not know this was in here, and I love when a book becomes interactive and I feel like you are trying to process what is happening and what is going on at the same pace as the narrator. I really enjoyed this one. After finishing ACOTAR, I went straight into reading A Court of Mist and Fury, which is the second book. This one here is a lot of people's favorites in the series, and I have to agree. I agree. So I flew through A Court of Mist and Fury, and these are big books. Like, the entire series is long books. I think that this one here is 624 pages in the second book alone. I wrote that the new character development in this one, he has my heart. I feel like I can't say much because I do not want to spoil it, but Sarah J. Maas did an amazing job at having a romance subplot in a fantasy novel, which may sound confusing when I say it like that, but romance is not the star of the show or star of the series, but it just captivates you and you don't want to put it down because you're just reading and reading and reading. It is just such a well-rounded book, and again, wonderful. I rated this one 5 stars, and I have so many like quotes that I have in here. I was highlighting, I have highlights, I have tabs, so I loved A Court of Mist and Fury. And then I went straight into A Court of Wings and Ruin, and another 5-star read. I loved it. Again, so many quotes. If you've read the series, then page 638, Cassian, on that page, my heart was broken. So yes, I have so many quotes on this guy. It was 699 pages. So again, another chunky read, but it doesn't feel that long when you're going through it. So 5 stars. Now, A Court of Frost and Starlight. This is the 4th book, and this is just a little one here. I'd say it's kind of like a novella. I think it's actually listed as that on like Goodreads, is that it's a like novella, little middle filler one. And I gave this one 3.5 stars. I love the characters, so I loved the book, but I feel like I understand why she put it in a separate book. It's all about the holiday, and if she was to have tacked that onto this, like, we would be a massive book, and I think would intimidate people. So I understand why she made it a standalone book. I enjoyed that it went through different characters' POVs and that you had different narrators. I think it was an amazing kind of middle ground to switching over to Silver Flames. So yes, 3.5 stars on this guy. I did fly through it. A lot of people say that it's kind of when they stall in the series, because if you binge it, it's a lot of pages. But I flew through this. I read it in one sitting and I just had to keep going. So, Court of Frost and Starlight. And then, unpopular opinion of A Court of Silver Flames. I think that this took the top. I liked it just that little bit more than Mist and Fury. Unpopular opinion, I know if you agree, if you disagree, you can write it down below, but I flew through this one. It is 751 pages and I read it like it was a Colleen Hoover book that I sit down and fly through. I demolished this book and I loved it. I gave it 5 stars, and just, if you know, you know. I loved this. So as a whole 5-star series, I think that you should definitely read it. Again, if you saw my book haul that I posted, I went out and bought almost every single Sarah J. Maas book after reading this series. So that speaks for itself. After I finished the ACOTAR series, we had It Starts With Us delivered, and I think everybody has probably watched so many videos on this. So many. It was highly anticipated. Everybody was waiting for this release. Colleen Hoover is a lot of people's, if she posts a book, you buy it. So if you've read It Ends With Us, this is It Starts With Us, and this is following Atlas and Lily, and it like is right after It Ends With Us ends. So there's like no gap. It starts immediately after that, and I'm still trying to figure out my review on this guy. I loved it. I think that it was amazing. I really did enjoy it, but I feel like it was rushed. Not to say I wouldn't recommend it. I feel like if you read It Ends With Us, you should read It Starts With Us. It was still an amazing book. I just felt like there was more that I could have got from it, and that not all of my expectations were met. But that being said, Atlas is a book boyfriend. He ticks a lot of boxes. I feel like everybody's going to love him reading through this. He is amazing support to Lily. And yes, that is my review on It Starts With Us. And so that was an amazing, quick, easy read after finishing the series. And then I went into Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I don't know if I've mentioned Taylor Jenkins Reid too much on my channel yet, but I love her. I don't know what it is about her books and her writing, but I fly through it. So, of course, I flew through Malibu Rising. I gave Malibu Rising, what did I give it? A 4.5 star. I know. It just captivated me. I was able to read through it so fast. I enjoyed the character building. It was wonderful. The end was not what I expected was going to happen. Yes, I just recommend Malibu Rising. So that one there. And then another thing that I did in October. So I did my fantasy series, which I don't usually read fantasy, so that was fun, branching out of what my typical reads are and trying something new. And I did it again. I gave my husband some options from my bookshelf and I said, pick what you want me to read. So we finished October with If We Were Villains. And this is like a dark academia. It is Shakespeare is in here. I loved this book. I gave it 5 stars. I cannot tell enough people to read this. I loved it. And I think we have to keep it at that. The twists and the turns, you have to read this book. And don't be intimidated by it having Shakespeare in it. They are Shakespearean actors, so there is definitely lines of Shakespeare. You do not have to know or understand Shakespeare to enjoy this book. That is my belief. So pick up this book and you will not be disappointed. This is easily one of I think this is going to make my top 5 at the end of the year. This will be on that list. I finished all those books. I did do 2 books on my Kindle. And on my Kindle, I read Icebreaker and I read When Gracie Met the Grump. So I feel like I have to talk about both of these. I will hopefully, if I remember in post-editing, put a little image of both of them here. So we're going to start with When Gracie Met the Grump. It is a Mariana Zabita book, which means it was slow burn. It is about a superhero and I loved it. If anybody has any recommendations for more superhero tropes, I guess, definitely put them down below because I enjoyed the book so much. I felt it was such a fun read. It was an easy read, even though the books are long. I loved it. So I gave that one 4 stars. I did really enjoy it. So that was When Gracie Met the Grump. Then I read Icebreaker. Yes, you've probably seen this cover everywhere. It is on Kindle Unlimited. I rate it 3.5 stars. It was a figure skater and a hockey player trope. It was good. It was just lacking something, and I've tried to put my finger on it, on what it was missing. I just can't. It was just missing something. It wasn't my favorite. I still read it. I went through it. I never thought about putting it down, but 3.5 stars. If you love athlete tropes, you would probably love the book. There's definitely some spice in it, which you do not expect looking at the cover, but yes, 3.5 stars on that. So that wrapped up my reading for October, and I calculated it out. Oh, I can find my phone. I calculated it out on how many pages I read, because I feel like I just want to see how many pages I read, because I read some big books. I just wanted to know how many pages I read. I think that's gonna be interesting for me to look back in my book journal at the end of the year and see what months I read a lot of pages, what months I didn't, because I feel like when you're reading longer books, sometimes it can be intimidating if you're trying to meet your yearly book goal, because you aren't reading as many books, but you're reading a lot of pages. That's a long-winded explanation for the fact that I read 4,835 pages in the month of October. That was my October wrap up. I'm gonna do a whole separate video talking about my November TBR and what I want to read. I hope that you enjoyed. I hope your coffee, you got to drink it warm. And we are in November.